Gotta be honest with you, my first watch through this video, I kept saying, shoot that guy, shoot him, shoot him. Hi everyone, welcome to today's badge cam lesson here at Active Self-Protection. I am your host, John Correa.
I'm your co-host, Mike Williver. Today's video comes to us from Middletown, Connecticut.
Palm pepper spray is next generation OC spray. It's hot at 1.4% major capsaicinoids, and its modular design means you can customize it exactly to you. 3 different setups, lots of different color combinations. You can make it exactly as you like. And the flip top safety prevents accidental discharges. It's 10 to 12 foot range and 25 half-second blasts. Make sure that you can keep that long range eye poke at long range. I trust Palm OC and I recommend it for everyone for self-defense. Officers have been called here to this house because the neighbors have called 911 because a guy is screaming and breaking windows in this house. So this detective who shows up is apparently in charge of the cadets at this police department, but also doing some patrol because they're short-handed. We do have badge cam audio from what happens to her. It goes quick. Let's listen in.
Can you put that down, please?
What?
Can you put that down, please?
Now! Call your fucking
Back up,
team.
come up hot. Stop!
Fucking
Stop!
Call
Go read the news stories that I've linked in the description and you can see eventually she was able to continue to fight this guy off. A neighbor ended up stepping in and kind of scaring the guy away from her. He ran back into the house, SWAT team showed up, they ended up taking him into custody. He was shot multiple times by the detective during this, but he was clearly non-compos mentis. He is a felon dating back to at least 1995. He is going to add some more felonies to his record on this. The detective shot herself in the left hand during this struggle and is recovering and is expected to make a full recovery. You know, I know people are going to freak out because the detective, who's a female, was screaming during this. But, you know, people respond in crazy ways when people swinging a hammer at
And
them.
a lot of times you see a male cop seemingly very, very calm, and he is, believe me, he is screaming on the inside.
So, Mike, I don't think patrol is her regular job, but I think it's worth reminding every officer that goes out on patrol, you got to treat every evolution like it's a training evolution and do it right and have the mindset that says, wait a minute, this is a call of a guy screaming and breaking windows. And so I have to have in the back of my mind what I'm going to do if this one gets violent. Not that it necessarily will, but if I don't have that mental picture in my mind, the body isn't going to go where the mind hasn't been.
I want to talk just briefly about, we called them collateral duties in my agency. So sometimes people would be in charge of a file system, you know, gun carrying cops would be in charge of something that isn't out in the field type law enforcement. And tactical skill, awareness of your surroundings, I think it's a perishable skill like anything else, like your marksmanship. If you don't shoot for long enough, you're going to have a problem. You're not going to be as accurate as you used to be. So I feel like if you're doing a collateral duty full time, you owe it to yourself to pick up a few shifts a couple times a month or something to keep that edge, to keep that street awareness fresh so that you're not, I'm not saying this is what happened to her here, but it's possible if you're working with the cadets all the time and you're kind of conditioned green or yellow, you know, 24/7, most of your day, most of your week, you can lose that edge a little bit. So I think it's important you get out there in the field and do a couple of shifts a month or do something to maintain that awareness, that tactical edge, because it can go away if you don't exercise it often enough.
I really value that. And I get it. You're busy, right? And you got a full-time job and you got a family to take care of. And now we tell you to keep your physical fitness up. And you know, you got to take jujitsu in case all that stuff, and there's a million things to do. But occasionally, keeping that kind of edge sharp and honed, I think is important. I mean, that said, I don't think she did a terrible job here. There's a couple things we really got to talk about. Now, when this guy comes out of the house, you got to orient to the problem pretty quickly. I do like, Mike, that she was like, hey, can you put that hammer down, please? So she saw what the threat was, and I think she handled that relatively softly, relatively right. But what I do think is that it doesn't seem to me that when this guy's coming out of the house and advancing that she thought, you know, I need to be ready if this one goes to heck.
Yeah, we saw that terrible, awful case in Las Cruces where the officer went by himself to a trespassing call in like some kind of industrial complex, and it didn't appear to be at his sharpest in that moment, and ended up getting stabbed to death. I think the ability to recognize danger, to recognize peril, is critically important. That's also part of what I meant by you got to get on the street every so often. You can't go 3 years in a collateral duty and then expect to be street ready after that. It's a perishable thing. So I think recognizing danger is critically important. And, I think, as a matter of fact, if I recall correctly, John, in that Las Cruces case, that was an issue where he just did not seem to recognize the danger he's in until it was too late. And he was behind the curve. You can't get behind the curve. So the minute this guy comes out of the house with a deadly weapon in his hand and he's making these sorts of noises, I'm gun out, maybe not gun up yet, but I'm gun out and I'm ready to rock and roll if I have to, because I just feel like she waited a little too long to recognize the peril she was in.
Again, that Colonel Boyd OODA loop, right? He gets really mad when people call it OODA. It's not. It's OODA, observe, orient, decide, and act. She's trying to orient to the problem and trying to figure out what's happening. She sees the hammer. That's a good thing. Now, what am I going to do about it? Now, I actually don't mind here. You see her kind of look a sec. And right here, she calls over to her backup. I need backup, step up. I need you to come in hot. I actually don't mind that here. Right now, she's got a little bit of discretionary time. And in a gunfight, we say this all the time, hey, get off the radio. I also want to note here, though, Mike, that even though I don't mind it, and I think it was the right thing to do, in this case, they are not going to get there in time. So even if you have backup en route, you have to be the one that can solve the problem because your unit's on scene.
Yeah, concur. So here's what I would say about that. When I worked in various places around the country, almost every agency frequently radio codes, 10 codes and all that sort of thing are shared in a county, for example, sometimes in a whole state. So if you go to California, the 10 codes are similar from San Diego to LA to San Francisco. They're very similar. Also, what should be similar between agencies and an individual agency is what we're going to say when we need help right this second. So she had a moment to call for cover. I don't mind her doing that, but I want something really succinct that everybody knows what it means. So make sure you have that. If you don't have it, institute it. So where I worked, it was either cover now or code cover. It's very succinct, very quick. Everybody knows what that means immediately. They're going to drop what they're doing and hightail it to your location as quickly as they possibly can. Like you said, John, it wasn't like she was in the middle of the fight when this happened. It happened before. I think it was appropriate and just fine for her to do. I'm just hoping the agencies, the officers and deputies watching this already have a saying or something succinct in place so that when it happens to them, they can be like, code cover, and they don't have to worry about it. They know, dispatch knows where you are. They can vector the other units into where you are. Just be able to say that and then get to work and don't bother with the radio again after that, unless the person's down and you're dealing with the aftermath of it. Otherwise, perfect.
Now, this guy gets to running towards her and screaming at her, and he has a hammer in his hand. This is where I started screaming, shoot him, shoot him, shoot him. This guy needs to be shot. And frankly, she's backing up, which is great. That gives her some more time, right? So remember, the 21-foot rule or the Tueller principle is not get faster with your gun. It's move your feet. I will say when she's moving purely backwards, he is able to run forwards faster than she can run backwards, which is why we normally say a lateral movement is best. Getting off the line is generally best. But also getting fast with that gun out of the holster could have saved her a lot of trouble here, Mike.
You ever watch a football game, any college, high school, NFL, watch a football game and you see, a particularly fast wide receiver who's got the ball and he's running, trying to get to the end zone, and you see a defender approaching. He doesn't run in a straight line so that defender who's trying to tackle him has a good angle of approach. He is almost always bending that run a little bit to get away from that person. If she's moving laterally here to her right or left, she stands a better chance of him not getting to her quite as quickly as he otherwise would have. Now, when John sent me this video to watch, the minute I saw him come out of the house, I'm like, I'm gun out right now. The first time I watched it through. The next thing I thought was, the minute he gets to that post, that's my line of demarcation. That's a do not cross this line. The minute he gets to that post, or whatever you want to call it, the end of the fence, the end of the driveway, I'm gun up and I'm giving commands. Stop. Very clear commands. Stop. And if he doesn't stop, I'm filling him in way before she did in this instance. And I can say that because I was there. I was there out in the field for 25 years as a Fed, 5 years in other places. And I do know that's where, in my mind, I would have been like, okay, no further than that. I got to start shooting now. And I don't know, again, if it's not a recognition of danger. I think she recognized she was in danger here. I just hope that you are able to make a faster decision to get the gun up and get this guy stopped before this point.
Now look at where her first shot goes. We can see, because we've caught it on camera here, you can see the case ejecting just at the top of her gun. You can actually see the impact of the bullet, which is to the right of our perp's knee from the perspective of the camera. It's a little farther right than that. A big reminder, misses don't end gunfights. It is very hard to miss fast enough to win a gunfight. It is very easy to hit slow enough to lose one. So being fast, important. Being accurate, very important. And of course, I'd rather her put one into the dirt, into the asphalt here than off into the wild blue yonder. But the only safe direction for a gun here, Mike, she needed to get this guy with a hit and crack his sternum. If she'd have put one inside of his high center chest, that might have changed his behavior faster.
Yeah, and like John said, I don't hate the low miss. It's not the end of the world. She wasn't firing wildly. But someone at this distance closing on you with a deadly weapon, you need to be shooting accurately and quickly. It's hard to get enough lead into this guy in time to stop his attack or change his mind or physically force him to stop doing what he's doing. I want to see you shooting at a pretty rapid clip. He's at this point, a couple yards tops away from you. You should be able to get a lot of lead into this guy really, really quickly. With that said, at this point, his momentum is carrying him towards her. So the odds of her stopping him completely and shutting off, getting a shot to shut off what he's doing and stop the threat are kind of slim at this point. He's so close to her now that he's going to get there, and he's probably going to get at least one blow in with that hammer. That's not what we want to see.
It's not what we want to see. I also want to recognize the fisheye lens effect of a badge cam says, oh, this guy's still probably 3-4 yards away. Probably not. He is much closer than that. Again, the fisheye lens effect makes him look a lot farther than he is. Here's where I got to stop a minute and say this is really bad. If you're watching this carefully, this right here is where the detective shoots herself in her left hand with her pistol. She shoots herself here, okay? She is going to be bleeding heavily from that left hand. The news story says she was shot in her left hand. The perp does not have a gun. The only one capable of shooting her here is herself, and this is where she did it. She pointed the muzzle right at her hand and pressed the trigger. That's like a self blue on blue here, okay? And it's all in this chaotic time. I want to say, though, this is why as a bad guy closes, you got to learn things like a thumb pectoral index and how to fight with a gun up close so that you're not sticking a gun right into the palm of your hand and almost effectively, Mike, taking her out of the fight.
My worst nightmare always at the range was something like this. Let me slow down. What happened to me? Either I rip one off into my right thigh when I'm drawing, or I get my hands flummoxed in some kind of way and end up doing some damage to myself. It's critically important. This is just like dipping your weapon when another good guy walks in front of you, or keeping your finger off the trigger and high and in register, or whatever. These motions like your draw you have to become so automatic that you don't have to think about them. Now, she's in a real bad spot here, right? It's a tight spot. This guy's up on her. So I don't know if she's trying to block with this hand or get a hand up to block something and trying to shoot at the same time. It has to be like trying to put two negative magnets together where you can't possibly laser yourself, can't possibly muzzle yourself. That's got to be so ingrained in training that you can't get it wrong. I've never personally seen this. I don't know if it's happened before or not, but you hate to see it. Now you're injured and you're still trying to fight off this absolute crazy person who's hitting you in the head with a hammer. It's not ideal.
An aggressive felon, and you made it harder for yourself. This is not great. I will say, though, I think her attitude is great. She's down on the ground here, has just been shot in the hand by herself, has been knocked over, dude with a hammer is standing over her, and what is she doing? She is putting that gun to work and getting hits on him. This is where she finally starts getting hits on him. So she finally kind of orients enough to the problem to get the gun pointed in the right direction and get rounds after this guy, and it does start affecting his behavior. So, emotional fitness says, hey, I'm still in a fight. Yes, I'm injured, but it doesn't matter. I'm still in a fight, still got to rock and roll. And she does that, and for that, Mike, I think she should be commended.
Yeah, listen, I want my officers to be determined. I want them to go home at the end of their shift. Now, I don't want them to go home at the end of their shift to the exclusion of protecting the public, right? We don't talk like that anymore. But I want them to be so sure of their skills, their abilities, their equipment, their marksmanship, among other things, and their determination to stay alive and to protect their own lives. And I feel like in this moment, she hasn't given up. I've seen, unfortunately, a few badge cams where the officer is down but not out, and you could see them. You see the moment they give up and don't fight anymore. And I don't ever want you to do that. I want you to hear John's voice, my voice, your instructor's voice in your head in this moment saying, fight back. Don't let this person take your life. Don't let this person, take anything away from you. You've got to fight back and fight back hard with all your determination, because he is trying to kill you right now. Make no mistake. And I think her determination to stay in this fight is in fact admirable, John, as you said.
I really believe that, and I think that that is well stated. And I think, I know some folks are gonna, we're gonna get some comments. We're always gonna get comments, oh, female cop, and I think that's trash, because I think at the end of the day, she handled herself pretty okay here. There is some technique stuff that I think should be better, and I know some people are gonna be like, oh, she was screaming. Yes, that is actually a method that some people use in order to, this is what I would call in my martial arts training a ki, or an expression of your fighting spirit. She's angry, she's mad, she's using that, and she's breathing, and instead of holding her breath, she is using it to scream out and to keep herself in the fight and to express her emotional energy. And I actually think that was pretty good, Mike.
Yeah, listen, I understand why people would think, oh, she's screaming. That's not professional. That's not, cool to be doing that. But as I've said before in this space, it's important in a critical incident that you be doing something with your breathing. Usually that means giving commands, stop, don't move, say something, stop resisting, whatever it is, so that you keep yourself breathing. You can tense up and actually hold your breath involuntarily, not realizing you're doing it in a situation like this. So I don't mind the noises she was making. It's the proverbial hi-ya from Miss Piggy back in the day when she took a swing at Kermit, right? I think at the end of the day, I want to see my officers in the field regularly so they keep that tactical edge. And I want to have that fighting spirit to make it through things. Recognize danger. When you're in the danger, get through it and prevail. At the end of the day, she fought just enough to save her life and cover her ass.